On Thursday the 9th of May, just last week, a 35-year-old father named Shun Riley was supposed to be on a remote work trip in the city of Kelso in Washington when he would mysteriously disappear. A few days after arriving, he would accidentally call his wife, Mary, in the early hours of the morning, to which she could only hear muffled sounds for 3 minutes before eventually deciding to hang up the phone. However, concerned by the strange phone call, she immediately called him back in the hopes that he would pick up and explain the situation. But to her confusion, after answering the phone, Shun would continue to make muffled sounds before a voice could be heard clearly stating, "Go this way, go this way." Mary then hung up again after failing to get her husband's attention and called the hotel he was staying at to ask if they could conduct a wellness check at 3 AM. But once again, she was left puzzled when the hotel staff confirmed that his hotel room was unlocked and Shun was nowhere to be seen. So, after her confusion quickly escalated to fear, Mary then called the local police to report the incident, and soon after accessing the security footage at the hotel, they discovered that Shun could be seen leaving the hotel alone, looking like he was in an extreme amount of distress. So, in response to this troubling news, Mary and the rest of the family instinctively travelled all the way up from Long Beach, California, to look for Shun themselves and help spread awareness of his case. However, after 1 week of searching, the case still remains unsolved, which has understandably caused many to wonder what really happened to Shun Riley, and who could be responsible for his strange disappearance. Shun D. Riley was born in the late 80s to his loving parents in the notorious city of Compton, where he grew up alongside his brother. Little was known about his childhood, however what we do know is that Shun was brought up in a relatively small but close-knit family, and was a very popular figure in the neighbourhood. Friends would describe him as a kind-hearted, friendly and talkative person, and these positive personality traits would appear to follow him into adulthood, as it wasn't long before he was already welcoming his first child into the world, after meeting his soon-to-be wife, Mary. The pair would then go on to marry in 2012 and have 3 more children as the years went by, with each new gift bringing the couple closer together as they continued to build their lives in the neighbouring city of Long Beach in California. But in order to support his ever-growing family, Shun would eventually decide to take up a job for an oil company, where he would be expected to travel to different locations from time to time. And at first, he was relatively happy with this position, even expressing to colleagues that he was excited when the company asked him to head up to Washington State for the week. However, little did anybody know at the time that this trip was never destined to go to plan, as soon after arriving in the small city of Kelso, Shun Riley would mysteriously disappear. On Wednesday the 8th of May, the 35-year-old father of 4 would finish up his shift at work, where he was assisting with a project based on the border between the states of Washington and Oregon. It is unknown which oil company he worked for or what his responsibilities actually were whilst up in the city of Kelso, but what we do know is that he was staying at the Comfort Inn and Suites Hotel, which was located not too far from the job site. So, after finishing his shift, he likely headed back to the hotel at some point in the evening, as he would later be captured on cameras entering the hotel. However, what would happen next is still a mystery to this day, as at approximately 2:40 AM, he was once again spotted on the security camera, this time exiting the hotel alone. But from the way he was walking, it was clear to see that he was under some kind of extreme distress. But it would seem that this already strange situation was still far from over, as soon after leaving the hotel, Shun would appear to dial his wife's phone number by mistake, and after answering the call, Mary would be left horrified. On Thursday the 9th of May, in the early hours of the morning, Mary Riley would be suddenly woken up by a phone call from her husband. So, keen to find out why he was still awake at almost 3 AM, she would immediately pick up the phone, concerned that something may have happened. After all, For all Mary knew, Shun was supposed to be up early the next day for his shift at work, so the fact that he was still awake at this time was troubling to say the least. But this mild concern would soon escalate when, after answering the phone call, Mary was only able to hear muffled speech and couldn't make out any words. So, after patiently waiting on the end of the line for 3 minutes, she would eventually hang up the phone, thinking if she called him back he would hear the ringtone and would pick up. However, Mary could never have anticipated what would happen next, as Shun would quickly accept the call, only to carry on where he had left off with muffled speech and unintelligible words. So once again, Mary listened in carefully, all the while screaming her husband's name to get his attention, as with every minute that passed by, her heart rate would increase with fear. But despite her attempts, Shun would continue to ignore her pleas, with Mary beginning to grow frustrated at the situation. But just as she was about to hang up the phone, an unknown voice would suddenly utter the words, "Go this way, go this way," leaving Mary in a state of shock as she contemplated what to do next. So, after accepting that Shun wasn't going to respond, she eventually decided to end the call and reached out to the hotel staff to see if they would be able to check his room, as at the time she had no idea that Shun had already left the hotel. But upon searching the room, the hotel staff were startled to find out that his door was unlocked, and all of his belongings were still in the room untouched, including his shoes. So, with the situation continuing to escalate, Mary was given no choice but to call the Kelso Police Department to report her husband as missing. On Friday the 10th of May, the police would respond to an urgent call made by a concerned wife, who was petrified that her husband may have been in danger. By this time, Shun had been ignoring his phone calls for over 48 hours, and with the nature of his disappearance, the police had decided to take the case very seriously. So, acting as quickly as they could, the Kelso Police Department would send officers out to the Comfort Inn Hotel to see if they could track his last known whereabouts. And upon speaking to security, they were given a tape which showed Shun leaving the hotel at 2:40 AM, acting as if he was in some kind of distress. But given that he was on his own at the time, there were no potential suspects to look into, so the police were then forced to share the case online in the hopes that somebody from the public would recognize his face. In addition to this, Shun's family would also travel 1,000 miles up from Long Beach, California to help aid in the search, by spreading the missing person flyer all around the city of Kelso, as well as neighboring cities and towns located in both Washington and Oregon. Shun's wife Mary would also agree to tell her story to KGW News, with the aim of spreading her husband's image all over the media, and at first, leads began to flood in, with many locals claiming to have seen a man matching Shun's description. However, despite the massive efforts of everybody involved, after a week of searching and following up on these leads, Shun Riley remains a missing person to this day. Now, unfortunately, as far as the official investigation goes, this is all we know for now. But I have it under good authority that Shun's family are continuing to search for their loved one, as they've been travelling all over the northwest region with hopes of finding him before it's too late. However, given that Shun has now been officially missing for over a week, alongside the incredibly concerning details that surround his disappearance, I can't help but feel that the likelihood of his safe return is only growing weaker as the days pass, meaning we have to keep this case alive and spread it as much as we can. So with that, let's get into some of the potential theories. Now, if you are a regular viewer of my channel, then you will likely know that I usually prefer to start this segment of the video by detailing some of the more positive theories associated with the case, as I believe there is always a chance that a missing person can be found, no matter the circumstances. But before I go on, I feel it must be said that Shun's family have made it very clear that they are not interested in speculation around his case. So rather than going into the details of where he could be and what kind of danger he may be in, I will have to remain respectful for his family and refrain from doing so. However, saying this, when it comes to Shun's case, I do have a very good feeling that he will be found soon enough, as there have been several sightings of a man matching his description, which is a lot more than I can say for some of the cases that I've covered on this channel. But if Shun is still alive out there somewhere, Why is he refusing to get in contact with his family? And more importantly, what could have actually happened to him? Well, one point I would like to make right off the bat is that since his disappearance, Shun's wife Mary has come out to say that he was not a drug user or somebody who had a history of mental illness. So in my opinion, it would be quite a stretch to say he could be on a week-long drug binge or got himself lost after suffering from a manic episode. But saying this, the police did claim that they saw Shun on the security camera acting like he was in extreme distress. So at this time, it would also be difficult to rule anything out, as this could have potentially been a reaction to a substance, or even just a sudden episode of paranoia. The fact is, it's impossible to say, but something that I feel would be worth mentioning, which is also something I really hope the Kelso police are looking into, is that this strange behaviour could have been the result of some kind of foul play. Mary did say she heard a man on the phone giving somebody directions, so perhaps this person could be behind Shun's disappearance. But as I mentioned just a moment ago, I'm going to refrain from providing any further detail here out of respect for the family, and instead I will use this time to ask you to please share this story with as many people as you can. I also know that Mary and the rest of the family have been paying for hotel rooms up in the northwest for a week now, so if this case continues for much longer, you can imagine they will seriously start to struggle to maintain this kind of effort without any financial aid. So if you do have anything to spare, the family have set up a GoFundMe page to help with the funds, and I know they would be incredibly appreciative of any help you can provide. But anyway, on that note, I think I'll leave this video here. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for updates on these stories. Also, if you're from the Northwest, make sure to check out the video on screen now, which covers the case of Ticarius Ray, a 28-year-old rapper who had recently moved to Oregon, but soon after arriving, would mysteriously disappear and hasn't been seen since.